going?
Hey, this is the Master Mentalist Erik Dobell from Impossibilities, formerly in Gatlinburg.
And I'm Mike Fowler, Fowler's Clay Works, Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
And welcome to What's Up Gatlinburg.
What's up?
What's up? What is up? Anything up?
Oh, well, it looks like what's up going to be today is what is going to be up today is going to be bears.
Yes, we have Dan here from the BearWise organization. Hello, Dan.
How you doing?
Doing good. And we're going to be talking about bears. We're going to be talking about what you guys do. We're going to be talking about some basic bear safety facts for tourists coming into the area. Maybe if you got any funny bear stories, we can do that too. Do you have any funny bear stories?
I don't think, but they're there. Yeah, they're out there.
Okay, you got some time to come up with some.
Yeah, they're out there.
So what is BearWise exactly?
Well, BearWise is a national education program that was founded and developed by state wildlife agencies such as Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and it kind of started about around a decade ago with a lot of biologists like myself, managers. We meet on a regular basis, several states, and kind of just talk things out and see what all is going on and work with each other. And we noticed that every time we got together, we were all bringing our resources, our latest door hanger, our latest flyer, whatever it was we were trying to use to get people to do positive things to avoid conflicts with bears. And it became obvious to us that, hey, we're all trying to reinvent the wheel here. Maybe we should combine our resources and start developing more consistent content that doesn't confuse. You go to Florida and it's telling you to do one thing, and you go to Tennessee and it's telling you to do something else, and both of them are good, but it confuses the public. And try to come up with some concise messaging to educate and also try to get people to be proactive to avoid those conflicts. And it's been very well received. And so about 3 years ago, we had a lot of states from other parts of the country wanting to start getting involved in the program. Without going into a lot of detail, it was hard to make that happen the way it was set up. So we went under the umbrella of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, which is a group that all state wildlife agencies are a member of, and went under their umbrella to allow states from other parts of the country to get involved in this program. So now 42 states are members of BearWise, and they fund the BearWise program. We each pay an annual due that covers the cost of the website and development of all that content and management. So, and then there's about 8 of us that serve on an oversight committee that determines what kind of content we're working on and development and things like that. So that's kind of the background. But the goal, once again, is when someone from Orlando, and a lot of people don't realize Florida has a lot of bears, but Florida does have a lot of bears, and Florida does a really good job of educating their public. So when those people from Florida come up to Gatlinburg and they see BearWise information and messaging, the hope is they understand what that means and what the expectations are, because they're familiar with that in Florida, and vice versa. When people from Tennessee go to Florida or go to Virginia or even maybe Washington State, and they see those that BearWise information, they're familiar with it and understand it and understand the expectations. And each state's doing it a little bit differently, but it's starting to really pay off, and we're seeing a lot of progress with that.
This is kind of exposing myself, but I did not know Florida had bears. Yeah. I did not know 42 states had bears.
Oh, yeah.
How many? Are there just bears everywhere?
About the only states in the United States, continental U.S., that don't have bears are going to be your Midwest states like Kansas, Ohio, Indiana, and even those...
Where there's barely people.
Yeah, and even those states are starting to see some occasional reports from adjacent states that have them. So, even though Ohio doesn't really have much going on, but they've got West Virginia, they've got Kentucky, they got other states close by that influence bears coming in and out. So even those states, a couple of those states, even though they don't really have what you would call necessarily a reproducing black bear population, have already joined, because they can utilize the materials that are there when they do have those bears pop up seasonally. They've got information they can get out to their public on how to react and respond to that. So.
Wow.
I lived in Central Florida my whole life, all the way until 2006. We never saw bears. But I still have a lot of family back in Central Florida, in the area that I grew up in. Specifically, they see them quite a bit now, quite as much as we do.
There's
in
a
some
lot
cases.
of bears in Florida.
So they've made a real big comeback.
Yeah.
Even years ago, I mean, I've lived here almost 20 years now. I mean, you would see a bear. You would see some bears.
Right.
But not like you see them now. So their numbers are thriving.
Yeah, they've made a big comeback all across their range. And what we tell people, for the most part, it's not that they're moving into new areas. They're just recolonizing former range. I mean, Tennessee, historically, the entire state would have held bears, during the years of settlement and exploration. West Tennessee, those Mississippi River bottoms, wetland bottoms are very good habitat, and a lot of bears, like in Louisiana, the coastal swamps of North Carolina have tremendous bear populations. In Tennessee,
perfect habitat.
Yeah, and Tennessee had the same at one time in the western part of the state. So these bears that are moving into Middle Tennessee that we hear about around Nashville occasionally, we're just going to continue to hear more and more about that, because those those populations are growing, and so they're going to expand back into that former range. And the food sources are different now, with the ability to get garbage, and unfortunately people feeding them. The agriculture, all of those things will impact bears' ability to move and thrive in areas that you wouldn't expect them to be in.
So are these all the same kind of black bear that we have here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Louisiana has a different subspecies, the Louisiana black bear, but for the most part, it's the same.
Wow,
American black bear.
I really didn't know that.
Yeah, I know, man. That's the point of these shows, man, is to dig more, man.
Yeah, so I just, wherever I am, I will live in fear.
No, it's like we were talking before we started. I think it's a good point. We tell people, my big thing is you don't need to be afraid of bears, but you do need to have a
Respect.
a fearful respect, right? So fear bears in a respectful way, that, hey, there's a bear. It's a wild animal, and it can be unpredictable.
And I find that here, I think I do quite a bit of that with the public here, even when we get one. I'm in the national parks right on the other side of the building.
Yeah.
And, the tourists are excited. A lot of times they've never seen one, and they want to get up and get that picture, and I'm like, hey, guys, give that guy a little space. Use your zoom feature.
Yeah.
It'd be on you like that if he feels threatened.
Right, and typically that's what happens is when people get hurt, it's because the bear and the person have come in to each other's personal space, so to speak, and the bear is just what we would call a defensive reaction. It's just trying to separate itself from that person, and that may come with a swat. And you see this when you see some of these videos of people where they've been scared by folks, and they're trying to get a good video of their friend, and they're pranking or whatever. And a lot of times you'll see how they react. They react by swinging or throwing their arms up or something like that. And that's what these bears are doing. It's the middle of the night. They're standing over here around a building doing something. All of a sudden, somebody comes around the corner of the vehicle or a building, and they're face to face, and the bear's trying to separate itself, and it may throw its paw up, swat, or it may run right over the top of them because they're between them and their escape route, right? And sometimes it's just freak accidents. We had a lady last year get hurt pretty seriously with a broken leg, and the best we can tell, she was just walking down the road at night, and a bear was running and ran right over her.
Yeah.
And and that meant it just ran over her.
I think this is a good argument against noise canceling headphones.
It is a good argument, and some of our BearWise materials tell people, when you're hiking, make sure you've got headphones that you can maybe hear your music, but you can also hear what's going on around you, or turn them off, because
you need to be aware of
your surroundings.
Man.
Absolutely.
And, even when a lot of times I'll leave in the summer months, especially leaving it's still dark, 5:36 in the morning, man. Before I head out between our cars in the driveway, I kind of make some noise to see. And I have, I've seen a bear out in the driveway. I mean, I live right here in Gatlinburg.
Right.
So.
Well, I live in South Greene County, and I didn't see it, but my son saw a bear twice this summer on our road. And I've been out there for 21 years, and I've seen bears in the area. I've worked, conflict issues in the area, but I've never seen a bear that close to our house. And but it's going to continue to see more of that, right? And when people start seeing and hearing reports like that, that's the time to start thinking about what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And, like for us, we have chickens, And this spring, I'm going to need to be building an electric fence around my chickens. I don't want to wait till the bear finds them, because then it's too late, right? I've got a lot of damage to deal with. I've lost chickens.
You got to be proactive.
And then you have a bear that knows that there's chickens there. So being proactive and putting that fence up now is going to help me in the long run. And not just with bears, it's going to help with raccoons and possums and other things that like to get into your chickens as well.
Foxes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we got all sorts of stuff around
We got
here.
all kinds of wonderful critters around here.
Right, and that's another good point, is that many times, especially in livestock issues, bears are kind of like the first thing a person wants to grab out of the air, is the reason that their cow, that they found a dead calf or an injured horse or something. And more often than not, when you get into it and look into it, it's usually the calf may have been stillborn or died for some other reason. It may be
aliens.
coyotes.
I was going to say coyotes, man.
Domestic dogs are a big problem in some areas with crop depredation. And bears get the blame for that. And that's not to say a bear won't go out and do that, and it happens, but it's not as frequent as people would think. And then we get calls, hey, I got my horse has a real bad injury down its side, and I think a bear tried to get it and scratch it. It's like, got one. It's like, no, a bear doesn't take one claw.
No, it's got
just scratch. Maybe you should check your
Freddy
barn
Krueger.
and see if there may be some nails sticking out of the stalls and things like that. And it's just a misunderstanding, that people understanding what bears do, how they act. A lot of times, bears find the chickens. They do like chickens. But usually the reason they're there to begin with is they're accessing the chicken feed, right? The person hasn't done a good job of securing the feed,
and it's smell.
And so they get that, and then they find the chickens at that point. So it's just a function of knowing, understanding bears and understanding what you have, and that's one of the BearWise goals, is try to help people with that. And there's a flyer, and all this stuff is available on the website for free downloads, but it's basically the at-home checklist, and it's 2 pages. And when you first look at it, you go, wow, this is pretty overwhelming, right? Because I got all this stuff I need to look at. But once you get into it, it's like, okay, I don't feed birds. I don't have to worry about that, because I don't feed birds. I don't have a dog. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, I do have chickens. So I need to look at this section and see what I need to do. I do compost, so I need to think about how I'm composting, because compost piles can attract bears.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's just a function of being able to look at your property, recognize what on your property could be an attractant to bears, and then addressing it. And then once you get used to doing that, it's no big deal. But early on, it's a change of the way we do things. I mean, now, when we go out to feed our chickens every day to get eggs, we're going to have to take the time to unhook the gate for the electric fence to come and go every time we want to do that. We're going to have to weed eat a little bit more than I did before around those posts. But we want to have chickens, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a part of having chickens in East Tennessee. You're going to have to do some things a little bit different.
Even as simple as when you get home, cleaning food out of your car.
Yes, I mean every night.
I mean a leftover little sandwich bag.
When you get home, you got to take that trash.
I'm constantly telling my daughter that when she gets home, get those drink cups out of that car now.
Bears can open doors, guys.
Yeah,
or bust the window open if they really want it,
They're very visual, and they see that empty cola can, that empty Pepsi can, that empty beer can, whatever it may be. All of it has sugar in it, and that little bitty bottle. And these bears know what's in there because they've been in them, and they're gonna try to get in there. They see that bag from that local restaurant. They know what's in that bag because they've been in them through trash cans and stuff. So you got to make it a policy every day to get it out there. And now it's even a function of the bears. Sometimes they're just testing doors. You guys mentioned checking the door here. It doesn't even have to have food.
I've seen that a couple times with tourists coming here. And one lady even asked me one time, why is there mud all over my door handle? And I explained to her, I said, that was a bear checked your door to see if your car was accessible.
Yeah, we've had videos shared with us of bears just literally going down like 5 or 6 vehicles and just checking each one of them. They're not even looking in them. They're just like
see if the door popped.
In some cases they may grab the handle with their teeth and pull, or use their paws to lift up on a paddle latch. and they're not even looking in; they're just opening it up. And when the door
I know I
pops,
shouldn't be
they come
laughing,
check
but that
it.
is kind of adorable.
Well, it's amazing how smart they are,
Yeah.
and how they learn. They're very,
because that's a learned
very good.
behavior.
It is a
man.
learned behavior, and honestly, that kind of behavior is it's very concerning to us, because a lot of people want us just to come catch this bear that's breaking into a vehicle. And I'll just give you an example. It's such a dangerous situation when bears are opening vehicles, because we've had situations where people have taken their kids out and put them in the car seat in their van or something, run back in the house to get something, and come back out and there's a bear in the van, right? Bears going in vehicles is, from our perspective, is a very, very dangerous scenario. And we really were, in some cases, let's just say if we had a bear breaking into a vehicle in Johnson City, we're going to try to catch that bear and get it out of the population. We don't want that learned behavior to develop and continue to escalate. And it's not the answer people want to hear, but we're not going to take a bear that's breaking into vehicles in one place and move it somewhere else so it can do it somewhere else, right? So we don't have a lot of options with bears breaking into vehicles. So that's another reason why it's important for people to lock their vehicles so they don't develop that scenario. But it happens so often in Sevier County that we can't even keep up with it. And if we have a bear break into a vehicle, let's say a hotel downtown Gatlinburg, we may set a trap and catch 3 bears that day, and you don't even know which one it was that got in. So catching bears that are breaking into vehicles, unless you've got video and some sort of a marker like a chest blaze or ear tag or something, a female with 2 cubs, it's going to be hard to keen in on which bear was doing that. So it really
makes don't snitch.
Yeah, it makes us tough. It makes it tough for us to deal with here. And but we're certainly not going to catch bears that we think may have broken into a vehicle and move them somewhere else and move that behavior somewhere else. So it puts us in a real difficult place that we really don't like moving bears out of Sevier County because of that. And the number of bears that we move has dropped very, very low. And unless we're real confident for whatever reason that maybe it's we're not getting reports of break-ins, and this may be a situation where, I don't know, maybe it's a 50-pound bear and people are tossing it donuts.
Yeah.
We might go catch it and just get it away from that situation and move it somewhere else to get it away from that situation. But we're just not going to randomly catch bears because they're a conflict and somebody wants them gone, because we can't guarantee that bear's not going to be breaking into cars or trying to get into buildings wherever it is we take it. And there's really nowhere to take it.
It was my understanding too that when these bears were relocated due to tracking and stuff like that, they discovered that even if you guys moved it several hundred miles away, the chances of that bear trying to come back here were good.
Right. And now, the distance is important, and 40, 50 miles is a minimum that you'd want to go to kind of cut down the chances of them returning.
Yeah.
But the more data we get with GPS collars,
Sure.
And it's a good study that the Smoky Mountains conducted a couple of years ago, that about 100% of their male bears leave the park at some time during the year, and roughly 50% of their female bears leave the park. And the general public has this idea, well, why can't you just go catch this bear and take it back to the wilderness? And in their mind, the wilderness is the Smoky Mountains National Park. And we say, that's where this bear came from. There is no deeper and farther in the woods in Tennessee. Places like Maine, Washington State, some places like that, you probably still have that. But in Tennessee, we have nowhere that we could put a bear that we're confident that it would not potentially cause conflict somewhere else. And we also have our neighbors, i.e. North Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, Virginia, to consider, because we don't want to give them a bear by going deeper into the woods, and typically your deeper is right along these state lines, right? Well, then you could potentially be giving them a problem that you don't want to give them, because paybacks aren't fun, right? We don't want them giving us bears either. They're having conflicts with So you got this agreement that, listen, we're going to try to deal with these conflicts, and unfortunately it doesn't always turn out good for the bear. And so it goes back to people if people do the right thing on the front end, it cuts down the number of conflicts and the number of bears that we have to handle and make decisions on. So,
and I agree with that, man. You know, in the last year or two, the city of Gatlinburg did a program where all the businesses, they purchased bear-proof dumpsters for all the businesses, and we now have them. Before the dumpsters being here, I mean, it was 3, 4, 5 times a week. There was bears that had a routine. Come by and check this dumpster. Cross the. Down the road. They had a route. I mean, they really did, and it was the same bears. When you're around long enough, you can tell when you get ones coming. You can tell. But since that dumpster is here, and then of course with us being on this, I forget what this zone is called, but anyways, we had to get rid of any trash cans that weren't bear proof too. But anyways, since that implication, we would still get a visit for like a day or two after, but then barely see them.
Figured out pretty quick.
And it's this past summer was the stars lined up for a really, really tough summer for us with conflicts. And
it did seem like there were a lot of bears this past summer.
And I think a lot was due to being dry. The bears were moving down low looking for water because there was not a lot of water higher up, because we saw a lot of bear activity around, good sources of water. But the dumpsters were part of that.
Yeah.
And because these bears no longer had these dumpsters, and you think about it, where are your dumpsters? Right there behind the buildings, behind the hotels. So they were able to get back there and pillage through these dumpsters and maybe be under the radar, so to speak. Well, when those dumpsters went away, it forced the bears to start seeking other food sources, and they were going after the garbage because it's easier than foraging in the woods. And we told people, I said, the bears will show us where these unsecured cans are, right? And we had people over and over, but that trash can has been that way for 5 years. I never once had a bear in it. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't have a bear-resistant trash can until 2 weeks ago. Now they're not getting in, or a dumpster, so they're not getting in your dumpster anymore. So now this is their next target, right? And so the bears were showing us where the problems were, and the city did a great job of going and following up on that and enforcing that ordinance you're talking about by telling folks, hey, this is your warning, get it cleaned up. And we started seeing some reductions, but we still had a lot of bears moving. And of course, we've also got the issues with Ski Mountain and the bins up there, and people not locking the bins, and that's a whole another issue. But what folks have to understand that live and work in this area, if all the trash went away tomorrow, the bears are still going to move from point A to point B, right? And there are a lot of bears. There's probably over 2,000 bears that utilize this Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So we're always going to have bears moving from point A to point B. And I tell people all the time, that's okay. As long as they're not stopping and getting fed or getting into trash. And so, but when you get that many bears moving around and you have a lot of people who aren't used to bears, i.e. our tourist industry, they're going to make those phone calls, right? And they're going to fall into that temptation of, oh, he looks small, I'm going to throw him some potato chips or throw him some bread. And so that's a battle, trying to educate tourists. At the peak of the season, there's probably 500,000 people coming through this county a week. And it's hard to educate 500,000 people on Friday, and then Monday morning they all leave and you start over, right, with another fresh set of people. But part of that education falls on the people that live here and run businesses here.
And I think TWRA and BearWise has really done a good job of briefing, like I said before. I served on our tourism board here, and coming into us and because I think we're a lot of times the retail businesses, the hotels, the waitresses, the restaurants, we're a good resource for you guys, because we're with the visitor. Like me, like I told you leading in before the before we started the show, I tell people all the time, it's number one thing I tell them: please lock your doors.
And there's some good information that we've recently developed. And like I said, this working group for BearWise, we talk a lot. I sent an email this morning because they're talking about how common is it for folks to have bears breaking into garages, because they're trying to decide if we need to do something about securing your garage. And I'm like, well, for us, it's a pretty common thing, and it's anywhere from true break-ins to people just being not paying attention, leaving their doors unlocked to their garage, right? Or leaving the door open.
Leaving the door open.
So, but there's a lot of resources on the BearWise site for even businesses on how to be a BearWise business owner and things that you can, like if you're renting cabins out to people, the type of information that you need to put in your cabin to educate your people. And, we see it all the time. People leave coolers out on their decks of these cabins, and you go up there and you knock on the door and say, "Hey man, I just want to tell you, you need to put that cooler inside, or you're going to attract bears to your porch." And I hear it all the time. Well, there's nothing in it, and the answer is, it doesn't matter. The bear doesn't know there's nothing in that cooler. Like I said, they're very visual. They see a cooler, they know what coolers are for. They're for food and drinks, and they like food and drinks. So they see a cooler, they're going to come up there and check it, right? And they're going to flip it over, and if they open it up, no, they didn't get anything, but what did they do? They walked up on the porch of your cabin, which is way too close to people in a place that we don't want bears to be.
Little kid walks out the door and gets too close.
Because that's when you get hurt, because you hear something out there at 1 o'clock in the morning and you think somebody's rummaging through your stuff on your porch, so you go outside to see who it is, and now you're in that situation we just talked about. You're right there within 3 feet of a bear, and you're between it and its escape route. And then that's when things happen, and it all was because you had a empty cooler on your porch.
A very avoidable situation.
Right. So educating your guest that you can't leave stuff like that out there. They rip these tonneau covers off pickup trucks like they're nothing because people think that that's securing their food, and the bear smells. I mean, they're just going up to these things and just, it's almost like Bugs Bunny, right? Just taking it. They don't do that, but it's almost something like they're just cutting it right open, and some of them they rip off because there is food in there, and others they just tear it and move on. I tell people when I see them, if they're out, I said, I'm highly recommending you roll that up till you leave this city, and it's just part of being here, right? But they don't understand that. So educating guests is a huge responsibility of the people that own these rentals, whether it's a hotel, condo, cabins, Airbnb, wherever it may be. There's some responsibility there of the owners of those, because we can't talk to everybody. But those people that are renting those places, they are communicating with the person that owns it, right, or is managing it. So there's the opportunity to educate those people, and it's really probably the best opportunity for people that are lodging is working with the person that they're staying. And a lot of hotels are doing a lot of good things. A lot of people are doing a lot of good things, and we're very pleased with it, and we're very appreciative of what's happening, and I think it's going to continue. But you always get those bad apples, you get those folks that just really don't care. I mean, I'll just flat out say it. We've got places that pride themselves in, hey, if you stay at my place, you're going to be guaranteed to see a bear. And they want those bears there, and they don't mind people throwing food to them, because to them it's business. It's good business, and so we have to battle that, and I think we're even making progress there.
That's dumb.
We're making progress there. And the people, it's kind of like I said, the bears will tell you where the trash is, and the people will tell you where the bad actors are when it comes to stuff like that. And I think
I guess that's one good thing about social media and stuff. You guys can access a lot of videos that are pretty incriminating.
And I think people are starting to understand, and it was part of BearWise too, is that people are starting to understand that they can influence businesses to do the right thing. It's like, hey, if you don't straighten up, and I'm going to put some bad reviews out, I'm going to tell people not to stay there, and it's gotten attention in some places, and then obviously fear of being somebody getting hurt and getting sued is a pretty big driver to get folks to change things as well.
Because if things didn't change or start, I always said it's just a matter of time. Before the.
But we had several injuries this year. Luckily, none of them were very serious.
Luckily.
But every time, it's just like, oh my goodness. But we say, okay, and let me back up, because I don't want to make light of when I say they weren't serious injuries. They weren't physically serious, but you think about emotionally and psychologically, you just don't really know. But what kind of impact something like that can have on people, and we've seen it, and it's a very disturbing thing for someone to have to go through that, and we don't want to see people have to do that. Whether it's, like I said, it's usually a defensive thing with the bear, but so many times it could be avoided, and sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge, and people do. I mentioned the cooler. The other thing we run into a lot in just people's residents, people that live here, is they don't understand what they have on their property that's attracting bears and making them come close to their house. Feeding their dog outside, and cat food. Next time you see some cat food, smell it. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and bears have an unbelievable sense of smell, and they can smell that cat food forever. And I told one lady, I didn't believe her, but she claimed she wasn't feeding the cats outside, but there was a bowl of milk on the porch, right? While she was telling me that. But I told her, I said, "Man,
that was for her baby."
I said, but the thing you need to understand is when I pulled up, I saw several cats, and where there's cats, there's cat food.
Yeah.
And I said, that's going to get a bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get their interest, right? Those bags that people put on their porches full of clothes, what are they in? They're in trash bags, right? Somebody may be storing some trash bags with some clothes because they're going to take them down to the Goodwill or something, give them away, and they throw them out on the porch for a day or two. They can get around it. Well, what's a bear see on the front porch? It sees these big white and black plastic bags that are always full of trash.
Yeah.
So once again, you put something visual out there that's going to cause that bear to come investigate. And people haven't quite gotten a good grasp of that those types of things still attract bears. And bears get so many rewards from porches that in some places they're just checking them out to see if there's anything there. It's kind of like, if you're looking for food in a cabinet at someone's house that you've never been in for, the food's in one of these cabinets, right? But you don't know which one, so you're just going to open the door until you find the one that has the food. And that's what they're doing, right? They're opening the car doors, they find the one that has food. They're going on porches till they find the one. But it's a lot of little things add up to
another big shift we've had to make here. And this area has always been known for its celebration in the fall. Mm-hmm. And the decorations here with the corn stalks and pumpkins. So this was a big change this year.
Yeah.
And everybody chipped in. Most people chipped in and didn't use the real pumpkins. But for years I even decorated with real pumpkins, and I learned how smart these bears were. They would come by. I would put a big display out here. They'd come by, and I didn't catch it right away. But every once in a while, I'd see like one little, like where they stuck a claw in and pulled a piece out. They would come by and do that. But when that pumpkin was perfectly ripe, that's when they hit me. And they would smash it.
Oh, yeah.
They knew.
And I forgot about that, but that was an interesting thing because the city did that, and the city of Gatlinburg, they asked us, hey, what do you think about us recommending that people use artificial pumpkins and squash and things like that and not use real? And we're like, that's not a bad idea, guys. If you want to make that recommendation, we would support that and say it's a good idea. And well, it kind of got back to some folks that TWA was going to ban the use of pumpkins and squash, and it's like no. It's like
we're suggesting.
And here's what I tell people: I said, I don't have a problem if somebody wants to put a display of pumpkins out in front of their business, whether it's Gatlinburg, Johnson City, wherever. Put it out there. But if a bear's getting it, you need to take it down.
Yeah.
And if it's getting it every year, and you have an alternative, well, then you have to make a decision. Do I want to go to the trouble of putting a display up of real produce just to take it down in a week when the bears find it, or do I want to do something different? And I know it impacts your farmers that are growing those, and that's where kind of some of the pushback came from. But that wasn't the point. Was that we were trying to say no, you can't use. Or even the city was just saying, listen.
It was a suggestion.
It's the right thing to do if you have bears. And here's an alternative. If you want to have a display, they make some pretty nice artificial stuff out there that you can utilize and still have your display.
The city of Gatlinburg bought, I forget the name of them, but these pumpkins, they put them everywhere.
Yeah,
they looked real.
Looked good.
And we've even got some great wood carvers out here that are carving bears. I mean, so there's alternatives there. And you can get the other problem was the corn stalks with the corn still on it. You can get the corn stalks without the corn. Honestly, I quit decorating with the real pumpkins and stuff because I got tired of cleaning the mess up. It was inevitable. I'm telling you, man, when those bears knew that those pumpkins were ripe, that's when they...
Right, and it attracts bears. Just like I was talking about the porches, it's attracting bears to your business. And so it's just unfortunate that you have to get to that, but that's just part of, like I said, part of living in East Tennessee and adapting. But, you know, over time, if bears aren't utilizing around businesses and stuff because they've quit getting trash and they don't show up as often, they may be an opportunity to start utilizing those again. If you don't have, it's a wait and see game as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean, I was really tickled to see the city think ahead about that, be proactive. It wasn't something that we had even thought about. You know, they just called us and, what do y'all think about that? We're like, I think it's a great idea.
Well, we're on the front lines, man. You know, so, I mean, I know you guys are too, but but we're in this area day to day. Oh yeah, and we all knew it was not a problem, but we knew it was food. You know. Yeah,
I mean, it's like, you know, the thing about it, and people are really, it's just human nature. But you can't put Band-Aids on this stuff.
No.
If you see that my problem is that I've got corn stalks and pumpkins under the sign, and every morning they're tore up, and then I've got bears. You know what your issue is. You need to address it, right? It's don't keep throwing pumpkins out hoping they'll quit coming, because they're not going to quit coming.
This fall, my daughter and her boyfriend were so excited. They went and bought a pumpkin. They carved a jack-o'-lantern. They put it out. They did it that afternoon and put it out about 5 o'clock. I happened to get up to make sure the porch light was turned on like 7:30, 8 o'clock. The pumpkin was already in the yard, smashed. Didn't even make a full night. No. I said, "I'm sorry, dear, but your jack-o'-lantern,
it's gone.
It's gone."
Yeah, it's
we
amazing.
Forgot. We didn't even think about it, you know.
I've known people, somebody I know, they're very good. They live up on Ski Mountain, and they're very BearWise. They're very good about everything they do. And they went to the store, got groceries, and they bought a pumpkin. This was 2 or 3, maybe even 5, 6 years ago. They bought a pumpkin, got home, got everything out, and forgot they had that pumpkin in the truck. Bear busted the window out to get to the pumpkin. They just forgot it was in there. And so even people are doing everything right can
we
make
all
mistakes,
man,
and miss something. It happens, right? But the key is to try to get. And I tell people, you can't let worrying about the 2 or 3% of issues that, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? You can't let that get in the way of success. We got, and we've talked about. All of us have said bear-proof cans and dumpsters multiple times, and we really try to use the term bear resistant. Because nothing is 100%.
Right.
And a lot of it comes back to operator error. And I mentioned those bins that are all over the city with the latches on them. They work pretty good when people latch them, but when they don't latch them, you might as well just be throwing your trash on the ground, because the bears are going to get into it. And so it's important that people make sure that even these dumpsters, if you open that door, and I've been very pleased, because I was a little concerned with the design of that people would leave the doors open, because you can't open that door and prop it back. And a little concerned that people would do that, especially people that are putting a lot of trash in, like going in the building and bringing more out, and we just say, I'm just going to leave that prop till I get done. I haven't seen any of that. So I think the folks that are utilizing these dumpsters understand that, hey, we've got a good piece of equipment now. It's not going to break, and it's up to me to make sure that I shut the door and make sure it's latched. And we still see around hotels where people, it's obvious they've put food out on top of the dumpster to try to attract a bear in. And I encourage people, if you see that, open that door and push it in there. Don't let those folks be successful in attracting that bear there, because it's not going to a photo op of a bear on a dump.
I should just take it and eat it myself.
To me, I'm like, let me show you I went to Gatlinburg, I went to Pigeon Forge, went to the Smoky Mountains, and let me show you this cool picture I got of a bear on a trash can. Like, I would rather show them this cool picture I got of a bear in a tree in the woods.
That's a good point.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's awesome, man.
Isn't nature beautiful?
I want to go all the way to East Tennessee and see a bear eat trash. That just is a great thing. You know? And so I think, you know, and kind of making light of that, but, you know, if you kind of call people out and say, hey, that's not a legit picture, right? That's not a wild bear. You're showing me pictures of a bear eating trash. I don't want to see that. I think that would help too.
Yeah, calling out the bad behavior.
But a lot of the social media, you know, you get into the, oh, I wish that was me because somebody's feeding a bear and they're putting it on there and other people are coming, I wish that was me. It just drives me nuts because we don't need to see that, right? You don't need to be envying people that are doing really, quite honestly, stupid things that endanger themselves and the bear. By feeding it, right? But we're seeing less and less of that, and we see people a lot of times do stuff like that, and you find out later they get so much pushback from other folks they take it down.
Oh yeah,
they get some public shaming.
Oh man, you put something up like that, you're going to get a lot on there going, you're doing nothing but killing the bear. You are the problem.
We're starting to see a lot of that. That's the peer pressure aspect of this. That's important. So yeah, I would encourage people don't feel bad about calling somebody out when they're doing something wrong. I mean, you know, and it's very hard. I guess I'll mention a lot of people tend to get frustrated with our agency because they don't feel like we do enough to punish these people that are feeding these bears. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it's very difficult to catch people. And the way laws are written, you know, you have to see it.
Right.
You have to be able to articulate that you saw them feeding the bear. And usually by the time we find out about it, they're already back to the other state that they came from. They're not even here anymore.
Yeah.
And then and it's been done a couple times in some really egregious situations, but to try to get a warrant served on somebody in another state is another very difficult thing to do. And then you got to get them back. You have to come back willingly, right? So it's not as easy as it looks to and the only place where it's illegal to feed bears is in Gatlinburg. That's the only place in the whole state.
In the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's not good, man.
That's a local ordinance. There's no state law addressing it. So that's the other thing that people feel like that they believe that it's illegal.
And is there any legislation or move to get legislation to get that law changed?
There's been talk. I haven't seen any bills this year. I was told, I'd heard there was one bill down there, but I haven't seen it. I haven't been asked to comment on it or anything, so I don't know what's out there. But it's something that
it's something that should be addressed.
It's going to get addressed sooner or later, but you have to be careful. You can't just say it's illegal to feed bears and go with that, because then you get into, well, what's the definition of feeding? And at the end of the day, it's truly the unintentional feeding that's driving the bus here. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this a little bit before we started, but when I say unintentional, I mean people that are putting garbage in a garbage can that's not secure aren't putting it out there for bears to eat. They're getting rid of their garbage, but it's unintentional feeding, right? Because they're making it available to bears because it's not secure. And then that leads to bears coming and hanging out around the garbage cans, and then they're close to these cabins or close to these hotels where it may be, and then that creates an opportunity for people to feed them, right, to throw them food. So a lot of, not all, but a lot of these feeding issues would not even be available to people if the unintentional stuff was addressed. So when you look at legislation, you have to be careful to make sure you're trying to put something out there that's going to address the problems in a fair way.
Sure.
You know, you can't also just go up and say, hey, bears, bird seed attracts bears, so you can't feed birds anymore. You can't go there either. But you got to create some expectations of people that, hey, listen, if you're feeding birds and bears are getting into it, then you need to take that bird seed down for a little while and give that bear a chance to move on and get it out of there. Mm-hmm. And how you address that kind of stuff when people are just adamant that but we do have people that legitimately, I'm feeding bears and I'm not going to stop. We have that too. Yeah. So, you know, and they're putting food out for them. They do it daily. They brag about it. It creates issues for neighbors, and and there's really nothing that we can do about it other than ask them to stop. And if we start having bears tear stuff up, then we will have to go get those bears and remove them.
Yeah.
So, because we can't let a dangerous situation persist. That we have the public safety to we're responsible. I mean, and it comes down at the end of the day, public safety comes first.
Yeah.
That's public safety's first, and then the bear population as a whole is second. And then we deal with individuals accordingly, knowing those two things.
Well, I hope you guys do get some legislation through. So, I mean, I understand the unintentional feeding, but the intentional feeding should be dealt with, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
and like I said, it's you got to have something that's enforceable. And I have lots of friends in other states that do the same thing, and some of them will tell you they have feeding laws and they wish they didn't have it because it's not written properly, and they can't ever get a conviction on it,
right.
and that makes it even worse because it has no teeth, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so when you get something, you want it to be right.
Welcome to the American legal system.
and there's some good law. We've mentioned Florida before. They've got a very good feeding law, but they learned, when they first started, it didn't work very well for them, and they had to go back and change some things up. And now, and the beauty of their law, the way it works, is very few citations are written. It's just the fact that when you put people on notice that they're in violation, and they have a certain amount of time to address the situation, in most cases they address it.
Yeah, sure.
And so a citation is never needed. It's just a function of calling them out and having the backing of potential citation that will get them to address the issue.
Well, I hope you guys get that one day.
Yeah. Maybe sooner or later. Yeah, it's a matter of time. I don't know it'd be this year, but it's a matter of time.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's got to be dealt with sooner or later, especially as the state's growing.
Right.
The whole any southern state, rapid growth. So.
But I mean, I guess we talked about just safety and stuff, and I think it's prudent to just tell folks that are listening that the bears and how they respond to people and how they act around people is really more related to what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so you need to be whether you're a visitor or a resident of the area, you just need to be aware of what you're doing and make sure things you're doing aren't potentially creating an attractant for bears. I mean, even the simple thing of I'm going to throw this bacon grease off into the woods will potentially attract a bear around your property, and those things that seem like no big deal really are. And then when you do see bears, I tell people, people are going to want to get a picture, so get your picture, but get it from a safe distance, and then let the animal move on. Don't throw it food. Don't try to get too close. And just remember, that our actions will impact bear behavior all day long. Whatever it is we're doing will impact bear behavior one way, in a good way or a bad way. So it does come back to what we're doing as to how they're going to act and what they're going to do. And but once again, it comes back to that, have a healthy fear, right? It's like that's a wild animal. If it chose to, it could hurt me. We haven't even talked about dogs, but a lot of those injuries that we talk about, many times it's related to people with dogs. They let their dogs run loose. They let them continually bark at a bear. Don't keep your dogs leashed. If they're barking at a bear, try to get them away the best you can. And what we see a lot of times is a dog will go after a bear and then engage the bear, and then the dog turns and runs, and who's it run back to? The owner.
The owner.
And then that's when the owner gets hurt, because now the bear's mad, and it's like, I'll show you, and it's chasing the dog, and the owner ends up getting hurt. And so dogs, having dogs in bear country, you got to be aware of what's going on and do things a little different there as well. And there's lots of good resources on the BearWise website about that as well. But it comes down to being prepared. If you're coming to East Tennessee to visit, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
We want you to have a good time, but we also want you to be safe.
You should be safe.
And you need to do a little bit of homework. And then if you're catering to visitors in East Tennessee, you need to do your part too, and help those folks understand what they're coming, the environment they're coming into, and help them be safe by giving them the information they need. It goes both ways.
So where can people learn more about BearWise on the interwebs?
BearWise.org.
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 And you guys got a Facebook page?
No, there is a little bit of a social media aspect. We were talking earlier about. I'm not a social media person, but there is a little. We have some folks that do a little bit of stuff on Facebook and a couple of the other outlets through BearWise. But
so just search BearWise on whatever.
BearWise.org is primarily a one-stop shop type thing. There's lots of information about bear behavior, and then lots of resources. It's called the store, and you can purchase some stickers and some other stuff, but
Nice.
the bulk of it is downloadable materials, and we just ask that people
We should put a link.
some information.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, we should put a link
up.
to bearwise.org on the.
Yeah, for sure.
People can, we typically ask people just to kind of tell us what they're using the info for when they download it, just so we kind of have an idea of what it's being used for and what kind of needs are out there. And sometimes it helps connect us with groups like, I know one state had a lot of libraries downloading stuff, so they reached out to some local libraries, and they're having some events and things, I think, in that state. So it just gives us an opportunity to see who's utilizing it within our state, and we may find some opportunities to create some partnerships and things like that.
That's cool.
Through that. So, but yeah, there's tons of information there, and like I said, the key stuff is and we see it all the time. We see people that download the flyers and put them in their hotels and stuff, and I would just encourage people, if you're going to do that, historically, people tend to be more willing to read and pay attention to things that are in color versus black and white.
Yeah.
So if you're printing it off, use the color cartridge.
Spend a few cents.
Yeah, spend a little bit more money. It's true. I mean, the color. I mean, they're designed to catch, to be pleasing to the eye, and cause people to stop and take a look. And so the colors and the design are pretty important.
Plus, black and white flyers attract bears.
Yeah, probably. Who knows?
It's got to be careful.
Yeah. So, but it's good stuff, and people tend to really like it, and it tries to. The other thing is that we recognized a long time ago, I mentioned bird feeders, and some areas we have lots of issues with bears getting in bird seed. I mean, the calories in bird seed is tremendous, and one little bird feeder, it would take them a day or more to forage for the same number of calories. So It's very, very attractive. But we also know that your birders want to see birds, right? So to say you just need to quit feeding birds and everything will be okay, that's not very well accepted. And so we've got a flyer that says attract birds, not bears, and it tries to get people to walk away from the bird seed and go to the bird baths, the dusting areas, the flowers, and some other things that you can do to attract birds to your area, more like a garden type situation, right? So you're still going to get birds, but you're not going to get the bears. And one of the benefits of that is you don't get just your seed-eating birds. You're going to get other species of birds that may be eating insects and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So you get more variety in your garden by going that way. So a lot of times it's trying to create reasonable alternatives for people to do something different, but still be able to get where they want to be and view songbirds, right? Not telling you can't take your dog for a walk in the woods, but there's some things you need to consider and do when you do that, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff on BearWise is just trying to help people find those alternatives that are safer for them and for the bears, and cut down on the conflict issues. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to manage, for lack of a better word, is public tolerance. And the more conflicts that you have with bears, the lower tolerance is of bears, and then people tend to do drastic things that we don't want them to do, like take things in their own hands and shooting bears and stuff like that, or demanding that populations be reduced and stuff like that. So we want to try to keep that public tolerance of bears. And luckily for bears, they are a charismatic species that people really love, and they like them a lot. The kind of conflicts that we have in some areas, if it was a different species of animal, people would not be as tolerant as they are. of it. Being a bear, kind of, they get away a little bit more because of what they are. The human population's had this fascination with bears since the beginning of time. That's, when you look into it, it's pretty interesting. And you think about the Native Americans and their respect for bears, and other cultures, and the bear's always kind of been the big thing, right? And I mean, you see it everywhere you go around here. I mean, now you've been to these people that carve bears.
I market stuff with little bear symbols on it.
It's unreal.
I can't tell you how many times I thought I saw a bear and it was actually just a wood carving.
Oh yeah, there's a couple places all summer long. I was like, "Take them, it got me again." You go around the corner, like, "Oh, it got me again," And it's the same thing. But yeah, I mean, they're everywhere, and so the tolerance level stays up there because of what they are. But we know that people do get frustrated when you have to go pick your trash up every day for 3 weeks. That's frustrating.
Most bears are good, but every once in a while you get a nuisance bear, and but like you said, and like I pointed out, the dumpster was the issue.
Right, and it comes down to we encourage people to continue. We've talked about these bear resistant containers.
Yeah.
There's bear resistant poly carts that work very well. We're starting the city of Pigeon Forge is starting to utilize those, and they're being successful. They're happy with that. Pigeon Forge is starting to they're starting to implement some dumpsters now, some bear resistant dumpsters. So we're real pleased with that. But there's other areas that other municipalities and counties that need to start taking that next step to provide those poly carts. And what I'm talking about, those rolling carts that so many people have. They make those that lock, and the bear can't get into it. They do not open until they're turned upside down, or unless you release the latch when you put your trash in it. But like anything, they're more expensive than the ones that everybody has right now. And the public, the residents of these cities and counties have got to let their leadership know that we're okay if it's going to be an extra $10 a month.
Yeah.
And we don't have to pick trash up. We're okay with that. But there's hesitance to move to those right now, because I think they haven't told me this, but I suspect they just feel like they'll be pushed back because it is going to cost more money to put those on the landscape. But it goes back to why we're here.
Yeah.
But I think we all may not consider the fact that, like I said, picking your trash up every day off the ground starts having a toll.
Sure.
Mentally, right?
Yeah.
And just your quality of life. And so that's the kind of stuff that we try to recognize when we're out here working with these people. It's like, listen, we don't want to come get this bear and take it away. Even if we could take it somewhere where it doesn't show up again, you're going to have more bears come do the same thing.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is try to teach you how to address this on a permanent basis, whether it's electric fencing, a bear resistant trash can, whatever it may be. That's where we want people to be, is we want them to be looking for those long-term solutions and not Band-Aids. But those come with some sacrifices.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know if it's a sacrifice. I think it's just a change in our daily routine. And once we get used to it, it's not a big deal.
Right.
We've
been giving out these straps that you can put on these poly carts that work really well. But we tell people it's a temporary solution, because these straps, they deteriorate with the weather. They do break. They're not going to be your long-term solution. They'll get you by, but don't rely on this to be your long-term solution. And we'll see. I know those straps that we've been giving to folks have been very successful, and people really, really like them. And it's kind of a segue to show that there are some solutions out there if you're willing to try them and experiment with them, and understand that occasionally they're going to fail, and when they do, we'll deal with it. It's like I was reading this morning about some bear boxes out in Nevada and California in the Tahoe Basin, and apparently a few bears have figured out how to get into those bear boxes, so the manufacturer had to come up with a retrofit to get around that, and now they're out there retrofitting those cans. They worked for a long time, and now they're
These
retrofitting
guys are smart,
them,
man.
And it's just what you got to do. It's just part of it. So
cool. Well, you got anything else for Dan?
I don't think so. I learned a lot.
Yeah, man. This was
enjoyed
good.
it. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm going to stop cooking in my car.
Sure, you should do that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about all this.
Right.
And hopefully we get some more questions and comments on the whole BearWise thing, because I know it's something a lot of people are very interested in, tourists and locals alike. So maybe we'll have you guys back on here. And thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Yeah, thank
and
you,
again,
Dan.
it's bearwise.org. Is that
That's
right?
correct, BearWise.org.
BearWise.org. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate
You got
it.
anything you need to
No,
say?
I think I'm good. I'll get besides. Thank you, Dan, for coming out and doing this, and
Enjoyed it.
hopefully we help a little bit here and get some, at least a few folks listening to it and or downloading the information. And
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's common sense, but
you got to remember too. A lot of these people don't know these things.
yeah. You just got to be careful. You got to be really, really careful. But yeah, it sounds like you got a great resource with the website and all that. So
It's interesting when you go to a cabin and you knock on the door and there's literally 40 people from, I don't know, Chicago or
middle of the
Indianapolis,
city, man.
and they're like, "What? There's bears here?" It's like, here we go.
yeah, I guess it's not common sense or anything about it. Yeah.
It's just they don't know, and they're just coming down to have a family reunion and have a good time. And I mean, there was a group at a hotel. I'll tell you a story. Talking about funny stories. There was probably 100 people having a family reunion, and they had a caterer cooking, smoking barbecue right there at the pavilion. And I can't tell you how many bears we had moving through that area all summer long. It was like the bear superhighway. And they're smoking meats, people, food everywhere. And I just went up there and I said, "Who's in charge here?" And some guy said, "Well, I guess I can be." I said, "Come here, we need to talk." And I took him over my truck and I said, "Listen," I said, "there's a high probability a bear could come up and try to push you guys out of this pavilion." And so I talked to him about what to do if a bear did come up. I said, "Your first goal is everybody scream, yell, throw rocks, try to get it to move on, but don't put yourself in danger." They ended up giving him an air horn too in case it happened. But those guys had no clue that the situation the dangerous situation they could be creating for themselves, because it happens all the time. Bears coming up and pushing people off of picnic tables and stuff to get their food. And when you got that smell of smoked meat rolling through the valley there, it was interesting, and they got their attention real fast. I was like, y'all need to be aware, and they had no clue. I mean,
They got a free air horn out of it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, no, they left. I said, "Leave the air horn at the hotel for me," and he did. So, but yeah, I mean, and actually, I don't think, from what I heard, they didn't have any issue. It may just been the number of people they had may have been enough to keep them away. But I mean, it's just a lot of them just don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank you again for coming on here. And my name is Erik Dobell.
And I'm Mike Fowler.
And that was this episode of What's Up Gatlinburg. And just like we say in previous episodes, if you listen to this, if you enjoyed it, please follow us, subscribe, whatever it is on whatever website it is you're listening to this on, Spotify, YouTube, hopefully YouTube.
Yep,
and
YouTube,
make sure to
baby.
share it with your friends.
Share.
Share. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, thank you.
yeah,
God, that was good, man.
next time y'all get Janelle down here, she was in training today. So.